Girls of Reddit who have rejected people. What's the worst way someone has taken it? I have access to the student files. I know where you live. A few weeks later there were reports of a guy looking into windows around my neighborhood. Thank God he got caught before he escalated to a B&D or worse. I was 13 and I basically told this really old dude to screw off while he was stopped at a light shouting crap at me. Light went green. He speeds off, U-turns wildly, then comes speeding back and threatens to shoot me. Then there was this other guy at a concert who didn't take no for answer. He pinned me against the wall and only scurried away because the police crashed the concert at nearly the same moment. The worst one about that was my friends just watching it happen, doing nothing. Friends. My ex-girlfriend rejected a really drunk guy in front of me while we were out at a bar one night. The guy responded by stepping over to me, grabbing my face, jamming his tongue in my mouth, and then biting me on the ear hard enough to draw blood. He was grabbed and shown the door really quick, but I was just in complete shock. To make the story weirder, I'm a guy and he was very straight and very drunk. I'm pretty sure he was declaring dominance or something. No clue. He broke into my house and chased me into my bedroom, then spent 10 minutes shouting through my locked bedroom door that I should come out and have a reasonable conversation with him. Adult to adult. This is almost exactly what an ex-boyfriend did to me in college. Please, I just want to talk to you. After smashing my bedroom window open in the middle of the night and trying to crawl through it. Frick no. He told me he had considered trying to get me pregnant so I would have to marry him. My ex told me that he wished he had done this when I was drunker when I caught him taking the condom off halfway through sex to try to get me pregnant. The old "you're actually a dumb W" who I didn't like anyway after he wrote a letter expressing his feelings about me. I politely told him that he showed a lot of courage but that I just wanted to be friends. Worst part, he was my work study partner. I was 19 years old. Looking back I should have contacted my boss who would have done something about the work partnership. I finally managed to dump my emotionally abusive ex for the last time, and a couple weeks later he found out I was staying at my mom's. One night he hid in the bushes in her garden and waited for her to go to bed so he could knock on my window and give me a bag full of presents. 6 months later his mom rang me and asked when I was going to put him out of his misery and get back together with him because he was becoming unbearably depressed. It's literally been 6 months of absolutely no contact. Why the frick are you all still waiting? His mom is the most ridiculous part of this creepy story. He called me roofie bait and then followed me around campus for a couple months. What the heck? When I was a nanny, I was walking around with the baby in the pram and we visited a bookshop. A man in there started talking to me and then asked me out, very kindly, keeping my father's advice in mind about being kind when I have to reject men when they ask me out. I said that was a nice offer, but my boyfriend might not be too keen on it. His response to that was to lean in and try and kiss me. I told him to get the frick off me. He then exploded with rage and started screaming in my face. I was saved by the bookstore employee. The man stormed out of the shop. I spent the next few hours shaking like a leaf. What a champion. That's freaking doubly scary because of the kid being there. Jeez. My sister was killed by her husband when she tried to leave him. The bullet didn't kill her instantly and he sat next to me in the IQ crying crocodile tears and telling me what a W she was. The story he gave the police was that she shot herself. She was in a cast to her fingertips from the broken arm he gave her. I have no faith in police. I know men are good people, but not there and not then. Thankfully, he's dead. 2. The world is better off. I was scared it was only a matter of time until he killed someone else. I've got my own stories, but they pale in comparison. He sent me an email with a 3-page essay attached. It was written entirely in third person recounting his first rejection by a girl named Tanya at the age of 16. There were a lot of solitary beach walks. She's the perfect girl talk. Him not talking no for answer and the story eventually ends with him drinking antifreeze, slipping into a coma, hospitalized and eventually recuperating, only to tell poor Tanya that she could avoided his and his parents' pain by agreeing to date him. The email said, so you know what you are getting into. I was 19 and did not see this extreme level of crazy coming but knew I needed to really make how I felt clear. I immediately called him to reiterate that I do not want to be with him. I no longer want to be friends with him, and if he contacted me again I would change my number. I let a friend of his know what was going on. 5 days later he called from a different number to tell me he was out in the country one with a gun to his head, and if I didn't agree to be with him then and there he was pulling the trigger. I lied and convinced him I had to leave because I had a family emergency. Aunt sick in the hospital, but we would talk the next day. Had mutual friend call him and report back as is suspected he was full of crap. Sure enough I was right. He was totally fine. He called the next day and with the most sing-song creepy serial killer tone said, "You think you're so nice? What type of crappy human being doesn't agree to what someone needs when they tell you they are going to kill themselves? You piece of crap." I lost the plot. Told him I'm changing my numbers, and the next time he contacts me it will be the police involved. He just laughed the whole time and told me he hopes I die alone, like I deserve. Radio silence for 6 years until I'm getting married. I have an email from him. "Hey, wow, it's been a while. How are you? Would be so great to catch up sometime." Freaking psychotic butthole. Obviously I never replied and changed my email again. I also once had a guy send me hundreds of text messages calling me all kinds of names, cursing me out and threatening me because I didn't have sex with him after our entirely lackluster first and last date. I didn't even bother reading beyond the first 50, just let him go on and on until I blocked and mass deleted. Still, it was nuts. I've had this happen too. He then reappeared in my life as a stalker a few months later. This is a slightly different take, but I turned a guy down for a date and he then posted a long snap story about how much he loves his wife that he had neglected to mention all that time. I had something like this before. Older guy I was working a film festival with. At the opening night he said something along the lines of, "You know, there's something between us." When I ignored it he started loudly repeating how he wished he'd brought his girlfriend, clearly trying to save face. I was pregnant, out celebrating my birthday with my partner. We had been for dinner and decided to call in at a bar where all of my friends were, as they wanted to wish me a happy birthday. Just before we left I headed to the bathroom, and my partner and friends went outside for a cigarette. On my way back from the bathroom a guy stopped me. He said something about my boobs, then attempted to motorboat me. I grabbed his chin and pushed his face away from me and went to walk away. He smashed a pint glass into the side of my face and punched me in the head several times. I was lucky that there was a table behind me that I was able to grab onto, or else I'd have fallen to the floor. He was thrown out by the bouncers, but it was up to myself and my friends to call the police to report what had happened. He was arrested. It went to court. He was found not guilty of sexual assault and he pleaded guilty to assault. He didn't get any jail time and I got £180 compensation, which I received in 1p monthly payments. Jesus Christ, and then he still didn't go to jail. I turned down a guy that was known for being the popular guy and I thought he was a bit of a donghead. When he tried to kiss me I turned my head the other way, said I wasn't interested and walked off. He grabbed my hand, spat in my face and said I missed the best opportunity in my life and the only reason he tried to kiss me was because he pitied me. This makes me want to hit something. We went on one date and I declined a second. A couple of days after that he called me and told me what I had been wearing that day. This went on for a couple of months. I'd literally never see him, but at least 3 times a week he'd know exactly what I wore. What foo. Went into a gas station to get my mom some lottery tickets and the cashier asks for my ID. While holding my ID, he begins questioning my marital status among other personal details. I told him I wasn't interested and paid. He gives me my ID back. I go to the car, start it up and begin to tell my little sister what happened as she was waiting in the car and she starts yelling that someone is coming over. Now the cashier is tapping my window and yelling, "Are we friends?" I put the car in reverse and drove away. While I don't know for certain who did it, the next day I had my tire slashed. I was told that the way my tire looked seemed like it was most likely intentional. Unfortunately this was like 8 years ago, so I no longer have the picture of the tire. As a precaution, I had some of my male friends go by and tell him to leave me alone. I never went back to that gas station and didn't have any issues with the guy after that. The worst part was I was 18 and when I told my mom what happened regarding the guy harassing me, she didn't believe me. Frick you, Bill. You're single because you're a creep. By getting nudes from another girl. cropping her face out and showing them to everybody saying it was me. Edit. TLDR. He faked a seizure. This happened a few days ago. You should know that I'm a gym nut. I go at least 5 times a week and train for around 2 hours, either in the weight room or with teachers during some courses I like. So this time I was in this room with some other people and a teacher, and we were doing a boot camp style training. There was also this guy, who's clearly not right in the head. I don't know what he has precisely, but it's pretty evident that he's not functioning normally. He also has epilepsy, and has had a seizure during fitness class before. Nobody really talks to this guy, but I try to be kind to him. I greet him when I see him, talk to him about training, you know, just small talk. Apparently he took it as flirting. I was appalled at the way other women blatantly ignored him, but now I know why. So, just before class, he came up to me and said, "Finally I've learned at what times you come to the gym." Creepy as heck. Anyway, I chalked it up to his less than average social skills. During class though, he started wanting to be paired up with me, tried to help me, even though I'm way more fit, with lifting, and constantly invaded my space. When he broke the touch barrier, I had enough, and sternly told him that he was being inappropriate. The instructor saw what was happening, took him aside, and prevented him from bothering me again. So, why am I telling you this story? Cause after I rejected his advances and the teacher moved him to another part of the room, he freaking faked a seizure. At first he was kinda believable, and we called the owner of the gym, who knows him and always handles these things. But then, he stopped seizing long enough to tell me, "You see, this is all your fault, US girl." Then he resumed, far less convincingly, "I've never seen anything as cringe-worthy and sad as this." He did the freeze frame fourth wall break totally wrong, and now we know all of reality exists only in that nutter's head. Backpacking with my girlfriend. We are both women, and staying in a hostel, 6-bed mixed dorm. All is well until it is just me, my girlfriend and an old Indian guy in the room who is ridiculously drunk. We ordered pizza that night and he started shouting at us for not ordering him pizza in the common room. Eventually he started telling people he wanted to marry my girlfriend. Asked me if he could marry her, to which I said no, go to bed, you're drunk, etc. Anything to get him away from us. We went to bed eventually. He kept talking and talking about how much he liked my girlfriend. I asked him to stop. He was making her uncomfortable and repeatedly said go to sleep, which he didn't. He proceeded to start masturbating over me and saying my girlfriend's name, as I was bottom bunk. My girlfriend was top bunk. It was horrible. My girlfriend threw a bottle of water off his head and we both ran out of the room to go to the reception desk to complain. He followed us. We had to complain about him masturbating while he was stood there. He flipped the frick out, threatened to murder us both, said he would kill the guy on reception, kept saying why would I masturbate over you, you're disgusting. The hostel kicked him out, gave us a private room, but he stayed and argued for hours. Even the police had to come. Holy crap. He stopped his car in the middle of an intersection and just kept slamming his fists on the steering wheel. I used to know a girl who was traumatized and crying at Starbucks, I think, about how her BF was doing this, but instead of an intersection it was a tunnel highway in one of the busiest roads in the city. They broke up about it. He was 15 at the time, and although the rejection happened over the phone, he was so irate that he illegally drove a car to the nearest place he knew to where my house was. I'd once told him I live near the hospital, and waited there demanding I give him more accurate directions to my house. In retrospect, I probably should have been more terrified than I was. This happened to me once. I gave the guy very clear directions to a house in Florida. I do not live in Florida. I'd gone out with a guy once that I'd met through a dating site, and we just didn't click. I told him exactly that, was very respectful of his feelings and wished him the best. He was not receptive at all. He called me a W, told me that he was going to find where I lived and push me into oncoming traffic. Really awful things. He wouldn't stop texting me horrible stuff about how I was a gigantic B, a total CNT for leading him on, and that he hoped that someone raped me. I blocked his number, which thankfully stopped the messages, reported him on the dating app, and thankfully never heard from him again. It was legit one of the scariest frigging things. Dude was unhinged. You have been visited by the paparazzi dog. Comment the perfect framing so that a paparazzi never pursues you. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.